Asgard was on fire. Ash blended with snow. All sunlight choked. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, was loose. Hel's grim plan had come to pass. To aid her brother's assault, she unleashed Asgard's worst foes, thunderous ice giants and horrid stalking shadows. Mortals' panicked cries filled the night. Athena, Greek goddess of wisdom, defended what mortals she could, but Fenrir was too fierce. She urged Odin to abandon the city and lead the people to safety. To Thor, his son, the Allfather entrusted Asgard's future. The wolf had come. Thor would not abandon his city or his people. Athena vowed to return with the Greek army and aid the Asgardians before Ragnarok consumed them all.
So this is the dog episode, huh?
Yeah, dude.
I love this one. Anyway, what's up, guys? Welcome to Patch Notes. That's Pon Pon. You guys know him. I'm filling in for Hindu Man this week, so hopefully we're going to be able to have some fun. I'm going to look over here now, and we're going to get through our patch for today. It's 419, I believe, right? 418?
418.
418. I'm a step ahead. Sorry, that's how I do it. But we're going to start things off. Yeah, because I want to look forward. There's so many things exciting about the fall when it comes down to patch notes, specifically the Odyssey. I think that's always prime on everybody's mind. So we're going to give you guys a little bit of a sneak preview as far as what those are concerned. We've got 4 skins that I want to show everybody off at first. So we've got Bellyache Ymir, which
this is the best.
This is an interesting skin, I'll put it that way.
I know. Once we get into game and we're showing things off, it is sick.
Sick might be the operative word. Then we have...
Just a hater.
Inugami Fenrir. We've got Inugami Fenrir. So this one is going to be... what's going on here, Pon Pon?
He's like a Japanese Fenrir.
Okay.
He has a whole bunch of really cool stuff going on, and I actually just ran around with like just to see what he kind of looked like. It's super cool in game.
Neat. All right, sweet. So that's Inugami Fenrir. Then we've got Sequined Sadist Daji. I love the title here. And here she is, just with the peacock feathers, just being a little gnarly out. You know, kind of bad lady.
Is that what you want to say?
Bad lady. And then Harbinger Nike. This one's interesting. This is a direct purchase, so you'll be able to just cop this when this one comes out. Very exciting about that one. And, of course, that's just a little taste of what's going on with the Odyssey. We're going to dive in a little bit later with other people and see sort of the finer points of the Odyssey. But that's how we're going to start things off, to let you know we're thinking of you. So the fall split, the fall schedule on its way. Moving past that fun stuff, we of course have Project Olympus, which is one of the bigger things. If you guys haven't been up to speed, Project Olympus is sort of the rebeautification, the maturation of SMITE, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a lot of really cool things that we've been wanting to do, and we're putting efforts towards things that like the community wants to see, or improvements to like the core SMITE experience.
And one of those things, we'll just start off, one of those things that we're tackling this time around is going to be Spectator. Yeah. So things looking a little bit more crisp. Yeah,
this one is specifically the health bars, especially when you watch like VODs or you're watching like the SPL live on Twitch. It's very hard to see health bars and like the delineation of like every 100 health from like the black bar, because the health bars are very dark. So we lighten them up, and we also made them a bit more colorblind friendly. They're more mirror the colors that are on the mini map with the tower, so kind of like this more teal and orange. And so you should be able to see a lot more easily what's going on and what everyone's health is in the middle of a team fight.
Step by step, you actually might be able to see these sort of things. Next up is, now this one is a hot topic. Yep. The server roll up. So this isn't as fun as fruit roll ups, but for what I've heard, they're kind of important.
Yes, so server roll-up was something we implemented to help low population queues and low population regions get into matches by, if there is not enough players in the particular queue at the time, we'd pull them into different regions. This had the downside that they'd be matched, but they'd be matched in a situation where they have lower latency than normal. We introduced multi-queue, and we feel that in general multi-queue has helped solve most of the issues that server roll-ups were meant to solve, and it also does it in a way that doesn't feel bad to the community. So we're taking away server roll-ups. We're going to really encourage players to use multi-queue, and everyone should be able to queue into the match, have a healthier population region, and have their latency that they want.
And from the sound of it, there were still a lot of positives with server rollups, but just this was one of the ones where we decided to just go with the community. Everybody had a bunch of feelings, and at the end of the day, I mean, YAL is really the feeling that we want to go with. So.
Yeah, server roll-ups did help, but they were helping in a way that didn't feel great.
So go with what feels good. That's the life lesson today. Random player loadouts, also something fun here. So you know how you can sort of rock a random ward? Now you can do it to the nth degree.
Yep. Every time I get into a game, I always like forget that I want to change a loadout. And so now I can just hit that random one, and I don't even have to care. I just get to be surprised every single game I play. The only thing about this is it doesn't affect avatars and loading frames.
Right.
And that's largely an issue with how the randomization works. It randomizes after the lobby has been made as you get into game, and those are kind of predetermined beforehand. Avatars, especially, like having them be random every single time, you really wouldn't know when they change. They change kind of like through your entire collection. So we're limiting it from not working with avatars and loading frames, but everything else should be randomized.
And at the same time, the everything else is kind of the fun stuff, the level up stuff, right?
Yeah, the
awards,
announcer pack. You got the loading background.
The stuff you're kind of really going to notice, right?
Yeah.
Like in game. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, just messing around with all. Now that you've collected all this stuff through the course of years that you've been playing Smite, now you get to play with it all instead of just one at a time. After that, we've got a couple of miscellaneous swaps that we want to address. So actually, kind of a big deal. They fixed an issue where players would not receive triumphant chests after winning a game. I'm not aware of what winning a game feels like, but you get a chest afterwards.
Yep. So people were getting stuck in a situation where they couldn't get these chests. That's now been fixed. If you're on console, it should already be fixed. It was fixed in 4.17. We got a patch early for them, but for 4.18, that's when it will get the fix in.
And again, just random touches. Random wards weren't working. Now they are. That's pretty sweet. And then, of course, the same thing twice. Now, here's actually a bigger deal.
It's a bit different.
Fixed an issue where players could not enable random wards. Fixed an issue where players using random wards would not have their wards be random.
Yeah, so if they had it selected, it would have a different bug, then you could not be able to select it. It matters.
In the mind of a dev. Now, as we get here, fixed an issue where blocked players could message the blocker, and fixed an issue where players on the block list can no longer join custom rooms hosted by the blocker. Thank you. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, that was a big feature request that we wanted to get. Well, first off, the block and D&D feature just broke, and so now it's fixed, so players can actually use those features again. If someone's being toxic to you, you can block them or go on Do Not Disturb if you don't want to be talked to. But if you're also someone who hosts custom games pretty regularly, if you block someone now, they just can't join that room.
I blocked Aggro so long ago, and he's still able to message me. I don't understand, so very happy to fix this. And then, of course, Grandmasters, all of those Grandmasters out there, myself. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, big change. So -2 TP penalty. That's no longer a thing.
Yep. So Grandmaster should get the full TP. They should no longer receive this -2 TP penalty. That was an issue. It was actually a bug in the system that we have fixed. So now they should be getting the full TP that they should be earning. We also have future changes planned for like the kind of TP system at the super high level.
Oh yeah.
We've been going kind of back and forth with some of the community members talking about various issues at the very top end. So we'll be looking at that in the future. But this is just a fix for an issue we found. Why discussing it with them?
We have a little.
No teaser. That's it.
Nothing?
That's it.
All right, well, so laddering should be easier for the guys up on top in the Grandmaster world. A couple of bug fixes as well as we kind of smooth through these miscellaneous ones. So Malice, they upgraded the description of this item to be a little bit more consistent with other items with a similar effect.
Yeah, it was hard to compare it directly with Deathbringer, which is like the other top-end tier item. So now it's a bit more comparable with the text.
You know what it says?
It starts with Critical Strike, and that's the big difference.
Critical Strike versus whatever else it was saying. So now, more to the point, I think that you kind of sat there and went like, well, Deathbringer and Malice, without doing math, seem to do the same thing, make your crits better. Now it's a little bit more understandable how they do that, which is, jokes aside, a big deal. Rod of Asclepius added description text for the buff icon of Rod of Asclepius. Now if you mouse over it, you'll actually have something to read. So that's pretty sweet. And then evolving items, things like Shaman Ring, etc. Everything is just going to be a little bit more consistent. The wording was wordy at best, and now I think it's a little bit more understandable.
Yeah, it should be easier to read, and it should just be more consistent across all the evolving items.
Now we'll get into bug fixes with the gods, and of course we got to start off with the bug man himself. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for whoever did this. Amusing Cobb is the first god we're going to talk about, and we fixed issues with Void Piercer AMC sound effects.
Yeah, so, and we have a few other sound effects fixes this patch as well. We had a few skins go out that had these sound effects issues. We're very aware of it, and we're going to make sure, in efforts to make sure that doesn't happen again. But these skins have sound effects fixes.
Sure. And we'll just go from A to Z, but a number of these gods have a lot of the same changes, so we're going to kind of gloss over them. But I do want to address them the first time. So Apwash.
Yes.
Apwash.
The basic attack radius of his auto attack.
So basically,
bigger than others.
Right. So when it comes down to it, basic attacks, there was a recent Tumblr post, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but basically all of the basic attacks coming out from different characters, theoretically, should be the same with few exceptions. So Poash, characters like Kronos, characters like Hades, some of these characters were a little bit out of whack, and we all changed them. But there were 2 exceptions.
Yeah, so the big thing is a few characters had a width of 5 on their auto attacks. We brought that down to 3, which is the standard. And if you want, you can read AJ's Tumblr post. He went really into detail about all this stuff, really back and forth with the community. And since then, from the back and forth, the community has actually found some of these issues and has updated the blog post to have more detailed information so that players can understand how this like basic attack range and width work.
Right.
But those characters had 5 where their effects were displaying 3. So those characters have been reduced to 3, the ones you listed. And then the exceptions, I believe, are Isis, which is the last auto attack of her chain, the one that does the AoE splash damage, has an effect that's wide, that's staying 5. The rest of the ones have been changed to 3. And the other one is Raijin, which has a very large effect that actually is width 5. He's staying width 5. And we've also updated the description text of all these characters that have the exceptions to be very explicit in what the difference between them and other auto attackers are.
So going forward, that might be another way for gods to differentiate between themselves, having different auto attack sort of ranges, not ranges, but sizes. So for now, a lot of them are going to be staying the same. So when we hit those, we'll kind of push forward. Shock also had some sound effects changes on his storm checks. This was something that people actually were pretty concerned about.
Yep, and that one has been fixed. So in 4.18, you will have the proper sound effects for the skin.
Fenrir fixed the description issue. Kronos is going to have one of the same basic attack changes as well. Moving on to Fenrir, fixed the description issue that stated Seething Howl affected allies rather than just himself.
That'd be pretty powerful.
What is it, like 90 power when it's
a lot
with
of power.
runes?
It's a lot of power. I think it's, I want to say it's 70 or 60. It's something really high.
It's silly. It's silly. So it's just Fenrir himself.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be, and it probably should stay that way. Hachiman.
Yes. Hachiman.
One of the side note, just one of the coolest looking characters I think that has come out. The whole mask and the whole thing is really dope to me.
Yeah.
But so a couple of issues there. General fixed an issue where Shogun Hachiman did not have orbs to signify the remaining shots of Eagle Eye. That's his first ability, the extended range.
Yep.
So now he has them.
There.
So you can see, and that's sort of like the halo above Agni's head, right?
Halo above Agni's head is the circles. They actually like orbit around him, like at a buff belt level.
But basically,
yeah,
my point being, it's a visual cue for the opponent to see.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that is now there.
That's a big deal for you guys following at home. And then Hachiman's basic attacks and ultimates are going to look better. Like they're actually being fired from the bow.
Yeah, so this actually kind of ties back to the offset discussion we had. Everything has an offset to make it look like it comes from the weapons. We updated his offset so that it actually looks like it's coming from the weapon rather than like the center of his body.
Oh, so it just looked like, so sort of like the Anubis ult where he opens his mouth?
Yeah.
Told you. Moving up next is going to be Hades. He's got one of the changes as well. Talk about the basic attacks. Again, some of them were wider. This goes down to 3, like everybody, with the exception of Isis and Raijin. Isis, again, that's the change. And the idea is that 1, 2 are going to be at 3, but then the third shot is wider.
Yep.
Nox has a neat change. Fixed an issue with its ability was playing the wrong visual effects. That's going to be Night Terror. So just different changes, different visual effects you'll be seeing there for Night Terror. Raijin, again, this one's actually a little bit different. Add the description to his passive.
Yes.
To describe the large.
So we did it for
average.
Isis as well. We added the description, but now it's very clear in his passive text that his auto attacks just have +2 width.
And that's an important part because of the interaction of Raiju in the basic attack, I would assume.
I mean, it's important just because like that's the visual conveyance of that ability. It was probably a decision made early on in his development, and just to make sure that information is out there and it's very clear, we added the passive. The big thing is rather than all the other ones which had effects that didn't match up the size, his effects actually matched the 5 width, and so he's staying at 5 width. Sweet.
Okay, I like that idea. And again, mentioning the passive now makes it feel more like an intended thing as opposed to just an oopsie. Ram fixed an issue where the marksman would say the wrong VBG.
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's enemies. I'm pretty sure it's enemies at Gold Fury. I think he was saying enemies at Titan before.
Okay. Well,
and now he's enemies at Gold Fury.
That'd be a big difference. Enemies at the Titan. Okay, yeah. That's fixed, thankfully. Ratatasker, Flurry fixed an issue with the visual effects of this ability were continuing even when the ability was canceled or not. So you'd be able to sort of like right-click or get stunned, and you would still see the animation.
Yeah, and it was never dealing damage. It was just this effects that was playing when it shouldn't have been playing.
And that's just plain annoying. Ratataska's annoying as is. We don't need more extraneous animation. Thankfully, that's gone. Sobek fixed an issue. Now this is game-breaking.
Yeah,
Fixed an
this is
issue
terrible.
where Sobek's parrot would T-pose upon his death.
Yeah.
What's a T-pose look like?
It's this, where their arms go out and their legs are straight and they just kind of stare forward.
It's just like the default, like, I'm a character.
Well, yeah, it's like, it happens in a ton of video games where, like, it's just the default pose of the character.
Yeah, except this was, important to note, this wasn't Sobek.
It was
the
just his parrot.
Parrot on the shoulder. Thankfully, we have fixed that one. The parrot, does he have a name?
I don't think so.
That's your homework. Next patch notes, I want him to have a name. Sylvanas, added description of his passive to describe his basic attacks hit enemies in AoE. This is sort of the cleanup as a result of what we were talking about before.
Yep.
And then Zeus also has a change to his basic attacks that we were talking about. Again, one more time, thanks to basically you guys. I mean, the conversation via Tumblr was like, hey, what's the difference? You know, does Afra really have a longer basic attack? One of the SMITE myths. And then once you're digging deep there, you sort of like find stuff in the background.
Yeah, and these are changes and like different like DB entries that were made like years and years ago, and so now going back and looking at them and seeing them, we can fix them thanks to that discussion.
So many different people, exactly, just a nice cleanup and get everything on the same page. And with that, we flip the page to balance.
We're here.
We are here. One of the more exciting spots. So here's a fun one. Onkale?
Yeah, I noticed you said that, and I noticed Adrian said it before the show. You guys looked up the pronunciation.
Yeah, so this was, I mean, this goes back to, like, arguing with, like, Bart about how to pronounce this one when this item first came out.
Yeah, I said Ansile.
Yeah, Anchile, Onkale, a lot of different, but at the end of the day, basically what this item was, this was the, oh no, please don't execute Meow Kwang item. I bought it once in 100 games. And so it worked for me. It was sweet. Like, Meow Kwang comes, and basically it silences the people around you, but the stats didn't really vibe with the passive.
Yeah, it was not defensive enough to warrant like that you could survive burst that was being applied to you, and it also wasn't offensive enough to justify you going in and trying to kill the enemy mage and position yourself to get that silence effect. So we're actually moving it in a direction, one of those directions, and the direction we've chosen is offensive. We want these players to pick it up as a bit of magical protection so they can survive burst, but also a good amount of power so that they can actually engage and fight these other mages. And then once they're engaged and actually fighting right next to them, they can use that passive because it'll be the mage that they're fighting will be right next to them.
Yeah.
So it's both encouraging the positioning needed to use this item as well as encouraging the playstyle with this item.
I'm going to tower dive aggro again, over and over again with this item. And it feels like what you're telling me to do.
I mean, if you want tower dive aggro, I'm not going to stop you.
Exactly. After that one, the Atalanta's bow, not Atlanta's bow.
Atalanta's.
I always just call this Atlanta's bow. So the attack speed moved up from 20 to 25. This item was just kind of weird, in a weird spot.
Yeah, it's this kind of hybrid utility damage item that is meant for hunters to get a whole bunch of movement speed, but it just wasn't good enough power-wise to justify that utility, especially because hunters are very dedicated towards being the damage dealers.
Yeah.
So we're bringing up its attack speed so that's a little bit more enticing as the damage dealing item, where you can then get it and also pick up the utility with it.
It's a lot of fun to go really fast, but there wasn't really like that payoff. So 20 to 25%. When it comes to attack speed percentage, these are some of the deceptive numbers. You're going to feel that jump.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra auto attacks that you're getting in a game.
I'm really curious. I think that the builds that feature Chinsai will absolutely at least think about picking this up in lieu of some of the other stuff. Now, Chronos Pendant, formerly 2,900, going down to 2,750. Everything else staying the same, though?
Yes, everything else is staying the same. And the big thing here is it was this really powerful effect that we added. It's a way to kind of bypass the CDR cap in a way, and we priced it very high accordingly. As players have built with it, have tried to experiment with it, and put it in their mage builds, it was just too costly to justify that effect, especially when all the other mage items are very costly as well.
Right.
Like a full mage build is just generally expensive in general. So we're reducing the cost that players might choose, like, hey, I'm going to swap this item out for it in a full mage build.
And I think that's a big deal. I mean, when you look at the other sort of luxury items, this is sort of a step below the luxury, but still a little bit more expensive than your must-have core items. And then the last one's going to be Witchblade. This one says goodbye to the lifesteal and says hello to CDR.
Yeah, CDR is a generally more widely applicable stat than lifesteal is. If you are a character, you're almost never going to say no to CDR because it's making your abilities come up more often. And for this item that has this very kind of utility effect, we wanted to be more widely usable on other characters. There were a few characters who could make use of this lifesteal and then also reduce the attack speed to reduce boxing potential, but it was very limited. So now without lifesteal and CDR, it's much more widely usable. Players can now flex this into their builds if they really want the attack speed reduction.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key, is that the passive is the attack speed reduction. There's a lot of times where I'm sitting in the game and you're just like, all right, they have a Freya, a Kali, 3 Hunters, and a Poseidon. Somebody...
They have 6 team members?
Ignore it. This is where I get... Somebody needs to buy a Witchblade, right? This, now you can shut your teammates up and say, listen, even the mid-mage can buy this. CDR is good. I think everybody's happy. We're just going to pretend like Hindu yelled at you.
We just pretend it.
That's it for items. The items have been changed. I'm actually pretty happy with these. Specifically, I really like the change to Anchile and Witchblade. I think these are really important. Atalanta's bow, I'll see what happens. Same thing with Chronos Pendant, but having more people have access to Witchblade in a reasonable world, I think is really important.
Yep.
Because that... I don't like to lose to Kali. Gods also getting balanced. RTO.
Yeah.
I always get baited into pronouncing it with a Spanish accent. Artio. I don't know why. She's a Celtic god. It's just
very different accent.
Either way, RTO, a strong character. I personally don't think as strong as everybody else in the world seems to think, but a nice little nudge down to sort of balance things out.
Yeah, after a recent adjustment, she's in a much healthier spot, but she's still a bit too high on the high end. What we're doing is we're trying to make it so that players have more opportunity to fight against her by reducing some of the cooldowns on her control, mainly her life tap and her charge, her bear charge. They're going to happen less often, so you have more time to like actually lock her down. And then we're also hitting the passive so that she's not shredding so much protections throughout the fight. That will limit not only her own damage, but also the damage that she's allowing her team to deal to the enemy team.
Yeah, go ahead.
And in general, that's just to make it so that even though she's very good at staying in a fight and boxing very effectively, she's not going to be so effective that she's overbearing. Oh God. I knew as I was getting towards the word that I changed the word and I couldn't get there. And so I had to go with the bear pun because I had no other choice. But yeah, she's overbearing in a fight.
This job gets tougher every sunrise.
See, this is why we need a Hindu here, because he would just slap me up the side of the head.
Yeah, I don't want to slap you just yet. We'll save that for next week when you don't do your homework. But here, I think it's important. So here's the 2 things that I think kind of make RTO kind of like interesting is that, one, she's always going to feel oppressive because she's supposed to be persistent. She's supposed to stay in the fight. And as a stance switcher, she just has more moves than you. So that's going to make her feel a little bit more oppressive than she is in all actuality. And so, you know, by taking down the protection debuff, that's not really touching her identity, and then increasing the cooldowns. Again, I think these are the right changes. Don't forget, she is killable. Cut that dash off and cut her down. Trust me. We've seen
if she
it in the
loses her dash, it's going to be 17 seconds before she can use it again.
Yeah.
Pretty impactful.
You know, she definitely has her Achilles heels. So find them and deal with them. Next up is Kamazats. I like to call him Kamazoots because he's always zooming. He has some changes as well. This guy has been sort of dominating the world as far as competitive end, almost always top pick, top ban. So brought him down a peg.
Yeah, the big things here is he's very good at poke, he's very good at sustaining, he's very good at ganking. And all those 3 being together is just what you kind of want as a jungler. You want to be able to pressure the opponent, you want to be able to sustain so you can fight effectively, and you want your ganks to be good. And so he made a change that affects all of that, which is his Screech buff no longer gives him as much power. It's down 10 at all ranks, I believe. So that effect is going to affect him over the course of a game by making it so that his damage from his whole kit and his sustain and his poke are less. And then the damage he can deal with Vampiric Bats is going down. It was a very high scaling, high damage ability. It's bringing down just a hair so that you can actually not get immediately bursted down into execute range where he can then go in the ult and then swoop, kill you, and then swoop out. Right. He might actually have to commit that 3rd swoop. He might not even be able to kill you with that 3rd swoop unless he poked you earlier. So just changes to tone him down a bit.
He's got to actually wait for that dot damage to deal, which means you have time to pop potions, to get healed by a teammate, pop an Aegis, you know. So a lot of different changes there. Most importantly, again, I cover in that Screech, the impact is bigger than it seems.
Yeah, it affects everything.
Exactly. So very, very nice stuff for Kamazats. Kuzenbo! My friend with the turtle shell. I've been practicing. You ready?
I'm ready.
Hey!
That was decent.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
I've been practicing. He's got some changes, some positive changes.
Buffs.
This is a character that I think is already decent. I think he's made fun of far too much. I think he's a very nice boy. And here we're going to see some changes to him to make him a little bit more attractive to those trying to actually win their games.
Yep. So we made adjustments actually first off in the previous patches that were targeted towards making him feel more consistent by reducing the knock-up kind of power of the ultimate, it actually makes it so it's less disruptive, and therefore players can actually land their abilities while the friendly Kuzenbo is throwing them around. And this patch, even though he's now more consistent, he's a bit underwhelming. Yeah. So we're bringing up his overall power in the course of the game. So hopefully he should feel very good after these changes. The big thing is sumo push. 12 seconds now at all ranks, down from 16 to scaling down to 12. So while you're leveling up the Nene Kappa because you want to throw it, you can actually have the 12-second push.
Huge.
Yep. And the second one is the ultimate is now on a 75-second cooldown, so it's actually lower than normal ultimate duration. Because in general, the impact it has directly for ultimate is less, but you being able to use it really often is going to really fit with his disruptive theme.
Yeah, and again, this character always felt like sometimes some of the mages with the longer cooldowns, you do your thing and then you just sort of you're sitting there. There's not much you can really do, right? This character, in my experience, almost felt like that. I think the change to 12 seconds, and as a character that you're supposed to be controlling things, bringing these cooldowns down, they're just more, you're able to hit your buttons more often.
Yes.
And that helpless feeling of, I'm the support, I'm helping. Now you can actually push your buttons a little bit more often. Yep. I think is very important. On the other side of things, we have a Ratatasker change, not giving them boots. Sorry, folks. Instead, they're increasing the physical power scaling from 20% per tick to 25% per tick, and then the protection shred also getting a boost.
And the big thing here for him is he was a character that is just underperforming in general. He is late game, especially, is the area where he kind of suffers. His early game, he gets access to the Acorn, which is a very good early item. He has good sustain, he has good control and gank potential, but he was struggling in the later stages. So we're increasing the scaling on this so that he is going to be a bit more impactful in the late game. And then by increasing the protection shred that Flurry does, he's going to now be contributing more to his team in terms of utility. Not only is he helping himself, but like that hunter who might be trying to shred who you just jumped on, or the warrior who's trying to dive that person, now has an extra protection shred to use.
I like that. I like that change. I think it helps him, like you said, be just actually useful in the late game. Side note, his eyes are really scary. He has no pupils.
You're just scared of his eyes?
Yeah, it weirds me out. Really weirds me out. I don't see what's funny about this.
Just don't like it.
He's got no pupils.
You have the same voice. I respect your like drum quad bongos rant. Yeah. I appreciate that rant.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Very big deal. Scotty. Perhaps too big of a deal lately. She's getting some changes. So is Calder, the doggo. Decreased the dash damage from, at the top end, 150 to 130% of Scotty's basic attack damage. Updated the description to make everybody happy. And a bigger deal, in my opinion, permafrost, the size of it decreasing. Coming down from 24 to 20 at the top end. Those numbers kind of mean weird things. Why don't you explain what the difference is?
Yeah, so, well, first thing is she's just been overperforming. She's been a very top pick. She's been doing very well. For a long time, she's been doing really well. And so now we're targeting more kind of these direct aspects of her damage and her control. Permafrost, the range being reduced, mainly what this means is at the high end, at the late game especially, you're not going to be able to close off as many areas as you would be before. The kind of narrow areas won't be really affected by this, but those more open areas, kind of like around the Fire Giant or Gold Fury Pit, there's going to be room for people to walk around now. Like, if you try and cast it and lock everyone off, there's going to be room to walk around. So her ability to control multiple people for the duration that she does is going to be lessened. It's pretty good.
I am just so happy, and on behalf of everybody in chat that's a little bit happy, I want to say thank you. The damage and the control,
yes,
a little bit much.
I don't think so. I think she'll be in a good spot. She's been doing really strong for a long time, and her overall damage ability control fight is still very high. I think it's just where you place this and how good you are at using permafrost is a bit more highlighted now.
Yes, that's the key. A little bit much. With control in mind, changes to Terra. Also, we're going to see some things. So it's right there. Yeah, no more root on Monolith Shatter. But before you go crazy, she gets a 30% slow for 1.5 seconds after she dashes through. We need to say that twice.
So I think there is a very big thing here, which is the Shatter was just a bit too strong. It was providing a huge amount of instant control, very hard to avoid control, both in early stages where you could then change that into the wall stun, and late game where you can just apply that to a whole team. And it made it so that other aspects of the Monolith had to be kind of toned down. It's only 3 hits. The healing was really reduced because you only had 3 shots for that Monolith to tank before it broke. And so not only are we adding the slow back to it, we're adding the CC for it as 0.5 seconds. So rather than being a 1 second root, it's a 1.5 second slow. And it only applies applies when you shatter. It's not the entire field.
Excuse me.
And then the second part is the monolith will now take 5 hits. So if you're using it to like block shots from a hunter trying to protect your carry, you can use it that way more effectively. If you're trying to heal up your team, it's going to be harder for the enemy team to really poke it out without putting themselves in danger. And so we're highlighting different strengths of her by also reducing one frustration component that was making her very, very, very powerful. And slows are a bit more easier to counter as well.
That's a big key.
Than roots, like you have Heavenly Agility as just like something you can buy. You have Winged Blade you can buy. So not only is it a bit less frustrating, it's also more counter opportunities are available.
Biggest thing that I want to drive home here is that when Terra shatters the monolith, it's not a giant slow field filled with quicksand.
Yeah,
When she shatters it, for the next 1.5 seconds, it will be a slow field.
No.
For
Wrong.
the next, when she shatters it, those inside the field are slowed for 1.5 seconds. I worded that poorly. Sorry, but again, key point: it's not a giant slow field. Don't get too nuts. Internally, we had some fun with this one.
Yeah, there's a discussion internally that revolved entirely around the confusion of this area is a slow field versus it applies a 1.5 second slow.
Yeah. So again, root God. Now it's a slow, but it's only if you're in. Can you shatter my monolith? Boom, I'm slowed. This guy walking in, not slowed. You're welcome for the beautiful visual representation. Coming up next is Thoth, otherwise known as Tahuti. I actually found that out recently. Rod of Tahuti is Rod of Thoth. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. So you know what, Pon, we can't all be as smooth as you. Updated visual effects and fun stuff like that for Hieroglyphic Assault and Evade and Punish to better convey the hitbox on those two options. And then Final Judgment, decreased scaling from 120% to 100, and then adjusted the charged up damage from 25 at the low end to 40 at the low end. This is less of a nerf and more of a shift, isn't it?
Yeah, so the ultimate change is basically the amount of damage it can do is just less. Its scaling is less.
Well, that's
but
positive.
When you quick fire it, it's going to be dealing more than it was previously. And the big thing there is Thoth is a character who is very, very good at the top end, but struggles basically everywhere else. He is very difficult to play, is very difficult to line up. Trying to actually hit all your things, if you miss that ultimate, you're very kind of lackluster. And the stats have shown that pretty consistently, that's how he generally performs. So if you quick fire it, if you just need to get it off and try and confirm the damage, it's easier for you to do. But the actual top end damage that it can do when you fully charge it and trying to throw it through that wall to kill that carry at the Phoenix is going to be more difficult to do because it's just going to do less damage.
Right.
And then everything else there, the audio effects for the ultimate will now be able to be heard further away. So you actually have the better cue that it's going to happen to you. There's no more Thoth that just kind of comes silently from the wall and kills you.
Absolutely been there.
And we also made all the kind of visual effects for those abilities a bit more clear so that when the hitbox is there and like when you're trying to juke it, like you know where the hitbox is.
Yeah. I think this is awesome. I think it's a big change. Coming up next, Tyr.
Yep.
You like that one?
Yeah, that was good.
Yes, that was good.
Have you watched the guy who like does all the Norse mythology? He actually does like the proper way to say it, and we say it completely wrong all the time.
How are you supposed to say it?
Or like Tyr's fine, but like Uller is like
Ul.
It has like a T sound somewhere in there. It's weird.
Dry Bear told me it was Ul.
No.
Oh well.
Driver is wrong.
Blame Dry Bear. Not for this change, though. This change comes from the SMITE folks. Tyr gets a little bit of a change. I'm a big Tyr fan, so I like this. Decreased mana cost on his Fearless, and his change stance gets a decreased cooldown, which means everything gets a decreased cooldown.
Yes, and so he's just struggled to really find his place in the meta. He's really struggled to find his place in the solo lane against his opponents, and his ability to go into like the mid and late game and really impact the team. And so by reducing the cooldown on change stance, especially because you're not really leveling that up, you're leveling up power cleave and you're leveling up fearless first. You now just have that switch more often, and every time you switch, your cooldowns come up. So you essentially get access to more abilities more often just by having this change happen. And the second thing is we lowered the cost on fearless for both stances so that you can actually make use of that extra ability usage, and you don't have as much mana concerns as you would if we didn't make that change.
Tyr, one of the most exciting gods in the game to watch at the very least. A lot of fun to play. Tough to play, but a lot of fun to play. So big deal from 14 seconds to 12 seconds. Again, 2 seconds off of that. As a dude, I think I have like 2,000 worshippers on Tyr. That 2 seconds is a big deal. Go home and try him out after the patch or on the PTS. He's definitely going to be a lot of fun. That does it for our balance changes. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, if you have a lot of really nice bug fixes that make things more clear, we got on lights balance that kind of like differs up itemization a bit. I'm pretty excited.
What was your favorite one?
I have always thought Ancile has some place in some build
Wrong,
as some counter.
wrong.
And seeing it move in a direction that makes it more viable for one of those situations, I am excited to see if people actually pick that up and use it.
You didn't say Kuzenbo, and so I just didn't listen to you whatsoever.
Aw.
Before we move on, I want to shout out to the God achievements that we've added. Basically, for Hachiman, he has... oh, my goodness. Who named... Okay, I need to know who named these.
I'm not going to say that in fear
So, mounted archery...
fear the wrath they'll get.
Mounted archery is totally fine. As Hachiman hit 5 enemy gods with one use of his ultimate mounted archery. So you only get one shot, but everybody in the cone gets shot. So if everybody lines up in the cone, hooray. And then next is number 1 stunner.
Yep.
Do you even remember this song?
No, I do not. Like, I vaguely reference it.
It's by the Hot Boys. This was when Lil Wayne was 12 years old. And of course, Tina is on the floor saying it was me.
Oh yeah, she's willing to admit it.
Number 1 stunner. There you go.
Oh
We're in
gosh.
Atlanta. We got to do it, folks. As Hachiman stunned 2 enemy gods with one use of his Iajutsu abilities.
It's actually gonna be pretty difficult stunning 2 people with that.
I've been practicing both number 1 stunner and Iajutsu. No, I'm just kidding. They just naturally come to me. But also new friends naturally come to me. You all know Savannah, but say hello to High-Res Top Damage. He's joined us here. Hello, how you guys doing?
We're doing good.
We're doing super good. My name's Brett. Some of you guys might know me as MLC Stealth. I'm new to the community team here at High-Res. Today's my 3rd day here. I think it's going pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's been a really good week. We've enjoyed having you on the team, and this week's going to keep getting better because this weekend we've got double everything going on. Console also patched the Odyssey yesterday, so we've got the Odyssey 2018 chest on sale right now, and HRX is right around the corner.
It's right around the corner. You guys be sure to get your tickets before they sell out. They are selling quick.
Yes, they are.
They are selling quick. HiresExpo.com, folks. You guys can get your tickets. So make sure to go ahead and pick up those tickets.
Pick them up.
Keep going, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Keep going.
How's your 3rd day?
It's going really good. Well, yesterday there was actually a fire drill, and that was a whole lot of fun.
Right.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about fire drills.
Hey, we like to play it safe at High-Res.
Spoiler.
We got to do things by the book.
But it was a lot of fun. I mean, we all went outside. We had ice cream afterwards. I'm not sure if
did.
I'm allowed to talk about ice cream.
Tell them about the
reward us.
cheeseburger.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know what to expect when meeting Brett for the first time, but not only do I get the pleasure of helping him with community tasks, but I also get to help him with his lunch tasks. So we learned how to heat up a cheeseburger together yesterday. So it's been good. It's been good. But again, before I hand it back to you after that, I just want to repeat, get on SMITE this weekend, get your double everything on, and don't forget to get that chest while it's on sale. Odyssey 2018 on console, 25% off.
Thank you, Community Squad. Newly featured Brett MLC Stealth. And here we've got new friends. You guys know AJ, you guys know Tina, you guys know Chuck. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
I didn't say you were new.
Yes.
Yeah, you said we were new.
Okay, so you said yes. All right.
New friends.
Already crushing
It's our
it.
first appearance on today's show, so there you go.
You guys are just putting words in my mouth, but now it's time for y'all to talk about the Odyssey.
Dun dun dun.
Odyssey, finally. Everybody always been asking about it all year. When are we going to see the Odyssey? When are we going to see the Odyssey? Finally
we're seeing
get
it
to
now.
see the Odyssey. You're mad excited, Tina.
Huh?
Tina, you're
seem
very
Very
excited.
excited.
Look how excited Tina she is.
For some reason, I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, I can hear you like talking, but I can't hear you through here. Or-
Okay. Well, you're working, so
Yeah, we can hear you.
What about
just
now?
do one of those.
Mine's
No, I
actually
can't hear
quite
it at all.
loud.
I,
so.
it's like not.
So we started off with a video.
Anyway, I'm excited.
An
Yeah.
Odyssey video, right? And
Yeah.
we did one before that where Chuck was featured.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
to me a little bit
Featured.
about the world of what we're seeing here in these videos.
Let me handle that one. So we're really just trying to build up Smite's actual lore.
By killing Chuck?
Yeah, well, that was part of it. Don't worry, he'll be all right. Maybe.
He'll be
Spoiler
alright. He's in
alert.
the underworld.
If only he could have made it rain.
Yeah.
He would be still
Yeah, he should have
alive.
made it rain. He had the chance. He
Yeah.
he disobeyed Ares though, so he had to
Yeah.
get the smackdown. Anyway, we really want to build on what the gods have done in our Smite world. You know, all of the gods have lore, they have stories, they have history, they have things they've done long times ago. You know, the stories that made them the gods that they are and what they've done in the ancient times. But now we have a new conflict between the gods rising, and we're diving into that for the Odyssey.
And so it's sort of the existing lore meets the new lore, and which team sort of rises up on top.
Right.
Kind of fun stuff because everybody's coming battle arena style and what is actually going on. So it's cool to see these videos. Honestly, real talk, I thought the videos were actually really dope.
Oh, the art's great. Chuck's doing a great job directing those, and with our cinematics team.
Yeah, we've all been. It's been a lot of group effort working together to get those coming across. So it's fun. It's been fun.
Hell yeah. The Odyssey, also new stuff coming out. We were showing some of the god skins as well. You got any favorites as far as those are concerned?
So we're into the Norse section. So we have the Fenrir skin and the Ymir skin. I'm generally a fan of stuff that's a little bit more cool, little more little serious.
Wow.
I guess cool is a bad word because I'm saying I prefer the Fenrir one. I prefer the Fenrir one. I like to be I don't like to be too jokey in my skin appearances, but I know for a fact that I'm not the only player who thinks that way. So
you got to have a split. Some of us are more we like badass skins, right?
Yeah,
but other people, they like their wacky, kitschy, weird, culturally relevant
Bellyache
skins.
Ymir,
yes,
essentially.
I don't know about the name, but
that's what happens when you eat too much ice cream. You get a bellyache.
Really? Is that where
Are
it's
we
from?
able to actually take a look at Bellyache Ymir in his full-fledged?
But
That's the card that we've got
When we
there.
first saw the drawing that Andy did of this Ymir made out of ice cream.
Chuck, who ate his cookie?
That's a good question.
You guys have been on for 2.5 minutes. We got the Tina snort and a potential line crossing.
Tina is right about there is a bite out of his cod piece cookie.
I like to think he ate it. You know, in the morning when he gets dressed,
Oh
he
my
also
God.
has
He's
breakfast.
extremely flexible.
No. He took a bite out of it before he put it on.
Did he remove one of his ribs?
Yeah,
Well,
he's in the morning. He's
wait
getting his.
until you see how he relates to the ice cream cone.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
Kind of.
he is made of ice cream, so I guess he's gelatinous. We're going to go in game and see him in just a moment. We're trying to get that one
there you go.
situated. But Bellyache Ymir, so who's I guess this was not your plan, AJ. Whose thought was this, Chuck?
Okay, so Andy, one of our concept artists, did a spread of different possible Ymirs, and this was just the clear victor.
It was.
My question is,
amazing.
did you guys have this conversation before or after lunch?
Before.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so.
Immediately
Yes,
before.
that's true. We're
Yeah.
all very hungry
But
during
we
those
all
art
saw it, and we were
meetings.
like, what? Okay, it's that one.
I think we might have
It's
seen a
that
different
one.
Ymir if this was a 3 p.m. meeting.
We definitely had this one suggested by community and stuff before this, or just this theme in general comes
Everybody's
up. You know.
wanting to make candy people. I don't know what's up with that.
But
Oh, well.
I'm very happy with the
People like
variety of different desserts that he features in the skin. You know?
Oh, well,
All right,
here he
wait.
is.
Before we do anything
Delicious.
else,
All right.
Pon, we need to see the intro animation.
Yes.
How can we do that?
I don't know if he
This
can
is the
do
live
that.
Pon challenge.
I don't think he can do that.
Well,
What do
here
you
he
mean,
is.
like when he comes into the game?
When you
or
load
he
into the game?
spawns into the match.
when he spawns
All
into
of the dev
match.
tools that bring a god into and cheat do
Just sort
not
of-
play that
Yeah,
animation.
he can't do it.
Man.
Oh,
we
man.
can video
Chuck,
record
please.
that. Yeah.
All right.
If you
Pon
change
says
to
no, I guess you'll just have to wait
You
until.
can tweet it out
Listen,
later.
do you want
You
to
know.
describe it to us?
It's an interesting thought process, but getting
I
there is
hear
going to be a
now.
rocky road.
So John,
Solid.
sweet
Oh my god.
I approve.
Lord.
I approve that
Um,
one. 10 out of 10 joke.
Actually, I think he says that too. I think Ymir has a rocky road line.
Well, you wrote it,
Yeah.
so you would know.
Damn
all
it,
right.
AJ.
Well, we can't show that animation. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We're-
It's okay.
we'll show it
You guys
later.
will just have to see it later.
Yep.
But as John describes it, I was like, John, why is he pulling an ice cream cone?
So we've also got a couple of other skins coming out.
No, finish.
He's cool. He interrupted
Inugami
me.
Fenrir
We're gonna keep going.
is also he's a good boy. Look at this guy right here.
I love the art style.
So
of that.
I am. This is one of those, like, jokes aside, I am not with it. I'm not following, like, what is he just like Japanese wolf?
Yeah, well, Inugami is. Fish was talking me over the translations a little bit
Right,
before
right.
the show. Literally translates to either like demon dog or spirit dog. So,
Okay.
So Inu, you're pretty familiar with as you follow the Shiba Twitter. And
Oh,
all
yes,
those,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
the
yes.
type of dog. So
Yes.
this means wolf spirit or demon dog. It's a way to reinterpret him as this wolf spirit is a very big deal in
Okay.
Japanese culture, and Shinto myths and things like that. So being our main wolf god,
Yeah,
we
that's
thought
him.
we'd reinterpret him in the style of the ancient Japanese wolf spirit.
So
and
Chuck,
we
what's
wanted to have a Fenrir that was less kind of, feral and snarly.
I like the Teen Wolf
That's
one.
true.
Yeah,
He is
no,
very
it's good,
snarly,
but
though.
we just wanted something
Another,
different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we wanted a little bit
different,
more
take on the Fenrir.
Softer edges on
So
him.
what's the back piece about?
It's a cool looking magical device.
Okay, neat. All
That's
right.
how a tuning forks in to the spirit
Sometimes
world.
there's nothing more than that.
Yeah, no, I mean it looks cool.
Oftentimes.
Yeah. No, when it,
Just trying to make stuff look cool.
What is this metal bead for? And mysterious.
I really like the background of this card art where it looks like a traditional Japanese painting,
Yeah.
and then he is like super modern art style, nice and detailed in the
I
front.
really like
but
that.
then the background is like
It's a
super
print.
chill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A wood print.
That's pretty sweet, actually. Yeah, no, when it comes to the more like lore intense things, I mean, dude, I'm Mr. Esports guy, right? Like I look at numbers and I look at percentages and I'm like, oh, I guess that's a cool skin, right?
Yeah, and
so the lore stuff escapes me a lot of the time, but this is just cool for cool sake. I
And this is
think.
a little bit of a spoiler alert, but we've had kind of skins in the past where we take a little bit of draws on different types of Pantheon mythology towards certain skins. So we did one or two of those. We have at least one more coming up in this Odyssey,
Yeah.
which if you pay attention closely enough to those icons and the list of the skins already there, you could probably guess which one it is. But we have another god who's getting a skin that is very heavily involved with the theme from a different Pantheon's
It is
style.
sussable by going
Let's take a
through
look.
the Odyssey
Yeah.
reward names and symbols.
It's a good boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, this
Pretty
one looks
cool,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good dog. So
A good dog.
okay, does
it
he
does
have
float.
different animations or anything like that?
So both of these Odyssey skins have complete set of new model, new particle effects for their attacks and
Voice
abilities, and full voice pack.
That's not me breathing, by the way. That's the dog.
Yeah, right. And the so not necessarily different animations, but the abilities.
I mean,
themselves
well, yeah,
have
there's
new-
some
cool.
animation stuff that gets done. Obviously, we have to handle the floating prongs, right? The magical floating prongs of attunement.
So we have some gold and purple color
Yeah.
themes here.
And he lands and it's like green and stuff.
Yeah, he leaves a little. It looks like a
Oh,
Japanese.
it's like a yeah.
It is green. He leaves a symbol of some sort there too, which we see a couple times. That's probably got some lore relevance as well.
Make a fish
do
nose.
the big woof woof.
You gonna make him just
There
go
he
alt
is.
form right off the back?
Yeah.
Oh, and he leaves a really
That's
cool
grassy.
trail.
That's cool. Oh, that's sick. Look at that. How much did that hit for?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
We're trying to show
He's
off
got-
the skin, and you're min-maxing.
Yeah, he's got
stats
no
over here.
items, and he's level 20, so it's not a very realistic situation anyway. After
You guys are no fun. Hey, there it is. Hey, there it is. So very cool woof woof. I'm a big fan.
Woof woof.
Again, the like back piece is so, it's just interesting. So
I like how it floats, and it's not like literally strapped
Yeah,
to him
it's
or
just kinda
anything.
chilling.
It's probably much more comfortable for him.
Tina, favorite voice line?
I heard you like dags.
Dags?
You like dags?
Like dags?
Dags.
Like dags?
Yeah, dags. How do you feel about this dag?
I like this one. I think 4 people in chat got your reference, but I like
Oh,
that.
that's nice.
Are a truly exceptional individual. Marvelous. I have performed in an excellent manner. Be warned. A lone wolf is a dangerous thing. Some say it's a dog-eat-dog world. But I eat lots of things.
So, yeah, nice, like, slower, calmer pacing to his voice as opposed to the
supposed to
normal,
be
like,
chill.
rah, 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 Fenrir's.
The guy who
which is
did the
nice.
voice actually does a lot of like other voices for like animals.
Right.
So he's really good with kind of voices.
I noticed he had a little bit of gruffness.
Yeah.
His
there.
voice is not like that. He sounds like
He sounds
like
completely
like
different.
higher than you.
Really? Well, he's
And
just a
you're pretty
talented
deep.
voice actor then.
Yeah, he's very talented.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat coming, stepping away from like the more feral stuff that Chuck was talking about.
Yeah, just trying to get a different feel. You gotta mix it up. That's what skins are about, mixing it up.
Yeah.
Next one up, Sequined Sadist Daji. I like this one. She's like a bad lady. Peacock feathers, just like being a bad lady.
She's pretty much always a bad lady.
Yeah.
Dodgy.
She is.
Sequined Sadist.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
That's
That is a little
intense. So the lore is basically she's like a noble person that likes to torture people, right?
Right.
So here she is, like looking mad noble with the peacock
Oh.
feathers, just all out. But also she's going to make your life miserable.
That is true.
So this was cool. We did some interesting experiments with it's when you've got a character with 9 tails and you kind of have to have the tails.
Yeah.
It produces some interesting challenges. So We tested out this peacock tail, and it turned out pretty cool.
Yeah. This is sick. Does she have any? She feels like a flapper. Does she have any like 20s references or anything?
She doesn't have a voice pack.
This is the T2?
Yes.
This is a T2.
Okay. Really? This is a T2? That's sick.
The model of the powwow is different. It's a completely new powwow.
Art Deco style.
Yeah.
Right? Art Deco.
That's sick.
Which is a cool style. And she's got the full modeling, but no particles or voice pack.
Oh, okay. This is still sick. This is like I said. It feels very like 20s, 30s. Like
it does. Yeah, the Art Deco style is very
and the Deco
known for that era.
Yes.
But the tails, it was really about the tails, and we were like, even when we started talking about Daji before we even made her as a goddess, we were like, we know we have to skin her. We have to make some. We have to have cool options for the tails, and this is one that was being thrown around really early. And Chuck wanted to make sure we started off with that just to see how much flexibility we had with the tails, like because they're very difficult technically and artistically to skin. So we're really happy how great this turned out. The tails look awesome. The transparency and the feathers worked out, even with multiples on top of each other, which is really tricky to do. Like the art team really did a great job with this one.
It was excellent, and we pushed the tier 2 envelope.
Why
quite
not
far.
just a peacock?
What is that?
Like a bird?
Just make her a whole bird, just her whole body.
Would that be a new rig?
It would be. So it would be more like a tier 4.
Yeah.
And we could change her whole voice pack to just squawking
And
noises
she would
instead of
just
like the dinosaur or the
bird.
the barrel skin.
But
Whatever.
would this peacock arouse you more, or the other one?
That's a good question.
I think we have the Ymir in game. I think we can.
I haven't been on a show with Tina in a while. It's a fun experience.
It's been a while.
We can discuss
So we've got
arousal
ice cream king cone Ymir here,
Belly ache.
and here he is, a belly ache Ymir.
I mean, look at that. Look how chocolatey. Look how crispy his chocolate is.
I see. He's got like a slight
And
there's
his
a kind
cherries
of
have like
mist
such
coming
a
from.
magically candied appearance.
What does his wall look like?
Oh, his wall is the best
You
part
just
of the
watch
entire
this.
skin.
It's amazing.
Wall. Oh!
Ice cream sandwiches.
That's sick.
Sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
You boys want some sandwiches?
Ice cream sandwich. Ice cream sandwiches.
Yes, this is the best. This is my favorite part of the whole
That's
skin,
actually
to be
really
honest.
I mean,
That's really sick.
It's well, everybody was like, I don't know, or at least a lot of people were when we first started doing this. I don't know. What's the wall gonna be? Ice cream sandwiches.
I believe Chuck
Clearly.
delivered that in exactly that fashion in the meeting
I
too.
100%
People
believe
were
that.
skeptical, and he was just like, ice cream sandwiches. Oh, those are ice
Look at
cream
those dang
cones.
cones.
That's neat. That's neat. Give us a freeze.
Sparkles, bitch.
Sweet.
Oh, there's sprinkles. Yeah, it's sprinkles.
Yeah, look at this. Look at the sprinklers.
You get sprinkled.
And then give me the old.
He num nums. Do you hear him num num?
Delicious. Oh no.
I feel like there's some weird auto cannibalism going on there, but
Yeah.
There is.
Why can't he
you were
also
talking
love
about-
ice cream and also eat ice cream?
maybe he's chewing on his cookie flap.
That's what I said.
There's nothing else for me to go to. That's it.
Let's hear the voice. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Yep, yep.
I do like that one.
Ymir trades you cookie for ice nom nom. No touching and no licking. Why don't you make like a banana and split?
Classic.
Yeah.
I look like big
Do some
ice cream.
VEA,
If you buy stuff from the shop, he says.
Softy. Yummy.
VER.
You so good.
Oh, nice. That one's great.
Oh,
that one's
man,
great. You
this is
so
gonna be
good.
Good.
I
This
like
is gonna
it.
be good times. I
Nice,
have a feeling.
nicely done, Tina.
He's gonna be such a troll,
When
dude.
Ymir shake brown cow, do me get chocolate milkshake?
I mean, I don't know.
That's
Where does chocolate milk come from?
No, I was actually taught that as well. So
Okay.
we have a couple of other things going on. New announcer packs and new global emotes and fun stuff like that. But these skins, I think, are the real fun stuff that people want to dive into. The new voice packs for some of these skins that we were talking about. New global emote. SMITE time. I guess we'll take a look at that a little bit later. And then, as I said, a new announcer pack. we'll be able to play with that one. It is Bruce Buffer. He's the guy from the UFC. MMA in general. I don't know if it's UFC specific, but so a lot of cool, like...
That will be added to the season ticket.
Nice. So a lot of fun stuff here.
You know, people have been waiting for that one, so...
Purchasable items, 20% off during 4/18, Smite Time, Global Emote, Billy Kimir, Inugami Fenrir. So the new stuff we're going to put on sale as well, and all that fun stuff. But let's move. We're back like those dinosaurs. And we're going to move on to... yeah, you were so close to me before, Bun.
I'm really close.
I'm going to stay way over here.
I like that. So moving on, we've got some Q&A. How dare you release my hand. Got Q&A with these folks here. So you guys are... I mean, we know it. You're the head designer.
Hi-Res Ajax.
And you design stuff
I do
as
some
well.
other design things.
Pon Smite, designer. Designer extraordinaire.
So we took a couple of questions from the squad out there in Twitch.tv land, and we basically brought it down to about 3 different questions that we wanted to address. So when it comes up to the first question, I think this is more directed at, I think you were talking about this more recently, AJ.
Yes.
Can you explain what players mean by synergy in Smite? How does the design team think about synergy during the design process?
So this is when we get suggestions a lot from players. They want to see more synergy in kits, but they always describe it in very different ways. So I wanted to take the time and write up a Tumblr post where I kind of defined synergy and defined a couple different types of synergy, and that's really what I wanted to get into here. Because you can really think about it in a lot of different ways. And when players are talking about it between each other, they're not always specifying which type they're talking about. So this is an extension of one of my Tumblr posts that I wrote this weekend / last week. It's got a lot of stuff about Kuzenbo in the question. So if you're looking to read the text, look for that. Look for my Tumblr and go to Kuzenbo, and you'll read more about this because I use him as an example for synergy. But really, I defined 3 major types of synergy that we see in Smite. The first type is explicit synergy, and this means that an ability explicitly references another ability. So examples are like Agni and Thoth, where they have abilities that actually do other things when you use abilities with them. They call each other out in name. It's not just a type of effect. It doesn't say increases damage. It says actually when Noxious Fumes is hit by Flame Wave or Rain of Meteor, whatever. Yeah. I'm forgetting the name of the ability. I'm sorry. But when you hit that, you get the stun. That is the first type of synergy. The second type is implicit. So this is roughly implied synergy. This could be used in a lot of gods, and this is one that's much more common than the first type. So you'll see this on gods, and really we try to make this type of synergy the #1 priority in any new kit design. This is what makes the gods feel like their abilities work together and make sense together. So that one is like Hercules. So Hercules, his classic Earthbreaker Driving Strike combo actually does not have any explicit references between the 2 abilities. But players have been using Hercules for so long, they've discovered this implicit synergy where it makes the most sense for the most powerful play to pull the god, then move around them and push them again in the same direction. You don't have to do it that way. The abilities don't actually do any more damage or have any additional effects if you do it that way. It's just strong that way. So you string those together on your own. And then the third type is external synergy, and this is involving just any 2 gods working well together. This is also very important when we're designing gods. We want to make sure that the gods can have fun impacts with other gods. And I used Kuzenbo, I think, in this example too, because he has that sumo slam, which is a really important ability, but he doesn't have great ways to like get up close to people. He has to use that sumo slam if he wants to get close, or he has to use like blink or something else. So Kuzenbo plays really well with maybe one of those long range gods with a root or stun, maybe like a hunter like Neith, who can root someone so he can get up there, position them, and then sumo slam them back. Also things like the classic Naja combo. Yeah, that's my favorite one, right? Yeah, you Naja someone up, you play someone like Scylla or Cuckoo or Ra, and as soon as they hit the ground, blow them up.
Recently, we've seen some cool stuff with Ho Yi and Terra really coming out.
That's a good external synergy. Yeah,
we saw somebody get triple bounced in between the walls and then stunned, and the guy's just like, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Fun stuff there. Second question, has Hi-Rez ever actually accepted a community god concept, whether it's from the Reddit or just shouted out on Twitter? You guys ever actually go like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Mine.
So this one comes up a lot. We see it I think we've even talked about it on the show before, but I'm going to get this one out to the Tumblr now so we kind of have it archived so people can go reference it. And the real answer is no, we haven't. And this is really, it's not because we don't want to, it's because the actual process of designing a god is much more iterative, so there's a lot of changes and trial and error. And that's a really key part of the god process. So if we were just going to accept some sort of written submission, it's very unlikely that that submission would make it all the way through the testing and design process without any changes.
Yeah.
So, you know, also you might see concepts out there that have similar theories of stuff that we have, and this is this is something that's explored in film and comedy especially, where something happens in the news and like 3 different comedians tweet like the same joke. They're not necessarily stealing from each other. You just have similar ideas. So
yeah, Kanazots, for example, like the screech, it has the it's like he's a bat. He's gonna screech and he's gonna use echolocation, and so I'm sure a lot of people when they talk about Kanazots because they wanted him in the game, some of those kits probably had screech,
right?
But it was very much not looked at from like any community concept. That was just something that was developed internally.
Right. One quick thing to add to this is we do really like to pay attention to what you guys are talking about as far as gods go, like specific names of gods that are really popular, really interesting to the community, specific archetypes, healers, burst mages, etc. that you think we need more of, or even, interesting game mechanics like, oh, Scotty's a pet god, I wish we had more of those, or I wish we had a different type of summoner god like Nuwa, but with more things like that. We pay attention to the community for that. Then we take that, kind of keep a list of things that are desired, and when we find a god that fits those well, then we can bring those out. But as far as actually copying or trying to use a full kit list as a god from the community, just the system doesn't favor that very well.
And at the end of the day, more people designing the same god just make it better. So having one person here, how's my idea? Is, like you said, in multiple iterations, wind up working well. And our third and final question that we have from the community here this time around is going to be: why can't Sentry Wards or some other type of potion or consumable allow you to see stealth gods, specifically Loki? Why not?
Okay. Well, this one came up big on Reddit, and I've already made a little post about it too, but just going a little bit more. We really want to be careful with specific stealth counters. This is something that affects all the stealthers, even though all the stealthers are not created equally, right? Stealthers some have very limited stealth. Some can be damaged at all, lose their stealth. Some have to be only stealth in very still locations like Circuit or Nuwa. So this is something that was started early on in Smite's development by the design team before Mirapon even joined the team, which was stealth gods should have inherent strengths and weaknesses that make stealth make sense in their kit. There should not be something in the game that anyone can just pick up and just counter all stealthers. So we think for the most part the stealthers in Smite are at that balance point. They feel pretty good. And we don't seek any real reason to introduce that more.
It also doesn't mean that stealths need like a weakness to counteract their kit. It's like Loki, for example, doesn't have a weakness on his stealth, but the rest of his kit kind of bounces around the fact that stealth is stronger than, let's say, Nuwa stealth.
Right. Yeah. And Sentry Wards are actually very powerful already. It's like we don't really necessarily see needs to keep adding secondary effects to that type of ward. So you can read more about that on the Tumblr as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Which, by the way, what's the address for the Tumblr?
It's tumblr.highresajax.com, I believe.
I think it's HighResAjax first.
HighResAjax.tumblr.com.
Yes.
Just Google HighResAjax Tumblr.
You'll get it.
A lot of
probably
cool
even
stuff,
Smite.
Talking to the community and talking back, and you'll be able to find archive posts as well. That's going to do it for us on the Patch Notes show. Hope you're excited about the Odyssey and all that fun stuff. 2 times everything this weekend, so make sure you get out there and play. Next up is going to be The Caster. New episode. I hosted. It's pretty sweet. So you absolutely want to make sure to watch that. It's coming up literally right now.
Right now.
So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you next time. Things don't always go right in live broadcasting, and you just got to get used to it.